Hey everybody, welcome to Fast Forward. Fast Forward is a vidcast where we're exploring new ways and better ways to do more with HubSpot. Every week we're spotlighting a different hub that can help you solve problems better, faster, and create better customer experiences for your customers in HubSpot. I'm Paul Schmidt, VP of Marketing at SmartBug. And throughout this series, I'm joined by SmartBug's strategists who will bring real world experience to the conversation. Today, we're looking at a hub that's critical for modern marketing teams, and that's Content Hub. What we're going to be talking about today is how you can use it to build and manage all your content more quickly and at scale. Today, I'm joined by Alexa Domanico, Director of Specialty Strategy here at SmartBug. Alexa, before we dive into Content Hub and look at all the features that you're going to show today, would you mind introducing yourself, share a little bit about your background?
Sure, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Alexa Domanico. I've spent the last 15 years working with brands to elevate their marketing strategies, drive growth, and streamline content operations. At SmartBug, I specialize in helping companies leverage HubSpot not just for better marketing execution, but for creating scalable content ecosystems that support growth across multiple channels. I'm excited to show you how the new capabilities in Content Hub, especially with AI, can help you fuel better content faster without overwhelming your team.
Awesome. Thanks, Alexa. So, yes, today's all about Content Hub. Content Hub really is your command center inside of HubSpot to help you create content more quickly that really aligns with your brand consistency and really just helps you create better experiences for your clients. So we're going to be walking you through today some of the latest spring spotlight features that were just announced, I think just a few weeks ago, to show you some of the new features that you may not be aware of within Content Hub. We're going to show you how AI fits in with all of that. We're also going to show you some of the features that marketing teams are really taking advantage of today to be able to take campaigns where it used to take them 4 to 8 weeks to create a campaign, and they're creating campaigns now. We're seeing some clients doing it in 2-3 days. So really impressive. We're going to take you through some of those features. If you've been following along within this series, you know we've already explored Marketing Hub, Sales Hub, and Service Hub. And so we've got a few more stops ahead in this series, but today let's dive into Content Hub. So first, before we dive into some of these features, let's talk about why Content Hub even matters. If you look at some of the content challenges, content creation challenges that teams are facing today, there's a real rising demand for personalized content. When you think about all the LLMs, whether you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or any tools, these are tools that individuals are using at scale to be able to create essentially personalized content for themselves. And so this is really the type of content that consumers are demanding. They're demanding that what they're seeing out there really aligns with the types of questions that they have right now. Additionally, other things that teams are struggling with is being able to create personalized content at scale and also just maintaining that brand consistency. How do you maintain brand consistency when you're creating personalized content over and over? How do you make sure that if you're leveraging AI or any other tools to create content, that really sounds like your brand? Other issues that marketers are facing today is this sort of content chaos. Marketing teams have struggled with this for a long time. Scattered tools, disconnected workflows, hopping from one screen to another. There's so much overhead that goes into just logging in and logging out of other platforms and creating content. There is a better way. And Content Hub is solving for a lot of that inside of HubSpot. And then lastly, just creative bottlenecks that slow growth. So if you're thinking about creating personalized content, how do you do this at scale? And how do you get the brightest minds together to create unique individualized content? So that definitely helps slow growth. So the opportunity with Content Hub, first off, it helps centralize planning, creation, governance, and publishing in one platform. Alexa is going to take us through some of these features today, but you'll see that Content Hub solves for that issues that marketing teams and content teams face today, which is you don't need 7 systems to do all of the planning and content development and approval processes and getting everything out live. And then second, a lot of all the AI that's built into HubSpot now, teams can do all the ideation, they can produce assets, they can launch campaigns, they can promote all of their campaigns all in one place without losing that control. So Alexa, let's jump into the features. I think this is what people are actually most excited about. And take us through, first off, some of the content remix and smart content tools inside of HubSpot?
Sure thing, Paul. So, in this quick demo, I'm going to show you how HubSpot Content Hub helps you turn one piece of content into an entire multi channel campaign in just a few minutes. So, whether you're a small team juggling priorities or a large org scaling campaigns, Content Hub can really make repurposing content flexible and simple. So, I'm going to go ahead and pull up Content Remix tool, and we'll choose to start from a blog post. So let's start with our original asset, a blog post titled Winning in the Senior Tech Market Strategies for Growth and Retention. So I'm going to go ahead and add that content. It's helpful evergreen content, but instead of letting it live quietly on our blog, let's use HubSpot to turn this into a multi channel campaign that drives some real engagement. So we'll go ahead and click this plus sign here, and you can see there's multiple content types to choose from: free form content, an ad, audio file, additional blog posts, images, landing pages, emails, a podcast, SMS, social, and website pages. For today, I'll go ahead and click social, email, and then let's create some ads. Click next. And then within each of these content types I chose, there's specific requirements. So for social, make sure you choose the correct network that you want to have this post be for. Add some custom instructions if you want to help AI create better content for you. So if you wanted the tone to be a little bit more friendly or more serious, you can add some instructions here. You can also include generated images in your social posts if you'd like. So for email, you would have template option. Make sure you choose the correct one with some content instructions, and same like we were talking about for the ad. So I'll go ahead and click generate, and it'll take a couple seconds for it to populate. But what's great about this is everything's written in your brand voice, customizable and ready to go. Each piece of content gives you the option to add some direction if you like. And then within each of these offshoots, once they're done loading, you can go in and click, see what it has to say. You can save or edit it in your app, or you can generate some additional content if you want. So there you have it. One blog post becomes an entire multi-channel campaign in minutes, designed to engage your audience and scale your message, save your team hours.
Yeah, this is great, Alexa. And I think, repurposing content, this is something that, we've been talking about with our clients for years at this point. Taking a blog post and being able to spin it up into, social posts, or spin it up into multiple blog posts, or take the concept that comes from a blog post and turn it into an ebook or a podcast or anything like that. And we're now at the place where you can use some of these tools to do a lot of this stuff and be able to just scale these types of ideas that you're coming up with in much more quickly than before. I think, and this does not take like the human out of it by any means. I think this just it allows humans to really think about how they can become more creative with how they're doing all this repurposing. And so when you think about content remix, Alexa, what do you think about, like, how should organizations prioritize like which content to remix first?
That's a great question, Paul. I think I look at a couple things. First and foremost, performance. Remix your top performing blog posts first. If something's already driving traffic, leads, or engagement, it's a strong candidate for expansion into other channels. I'd also focus on relevance, focusing on content that aligns with your current campaigns, seasonal topics, or buyer questions, buyer personas. If it's timely or ties into a launch or promotion, that's also a big plus. Also, evergreen value, posts that are educational, how to focused, solve recurring pain points. Those are great for remixing because they just stay useful longer. You can keep reusing them over time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Well, let's jump to our next feature, which is content assistant upgrades. What are some of the content assistant upgrades? Maybe you could take us through some of those.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. So let's sort of imagine that we're planning next month's content calendar. We want to write about inbound marketing best practices and trends, but not really sure what angle to take here. So inside Content Hub, like I am, I'll go to the blog post section and then click Start with AI. So here, it'll start with defining an idea. So we can describe what your blog post is about. They give some recommendations, or you could go ahead and add in your own key topics or goals. For today, I'll go ahead and choose a suggestion of effective inbound marketing strategies for management consulting firms. You can also go ahead, write in a keyword, which I'd recommend, even though they make this optional. Also, include your country of target audience, the blog that you want this to be a part of, and then your industry. So for today, I'll just choose construction. So then from there, we will click select title. And then HubSpot AI instantly generates a couple titles here for you to take a look at. What I really love for in terms of SEO is that the monthly search volumes included, difficulty to rank, as well as keyword intent. So for here, they have effective inbound marketing strategies for management consulting, how thought leadership content elevates consulting firms, and lead gen tips for management consulting success, including the keyword used for each post. So for today, I'll choose effective inbound marketing strategies. You can also choose more titles if you didn't really like what it shot out the first time around. They also have a section that's optional to add any supporting documents to inform your blog posts. And then we'll go ahead and click review outline. These are going to pop up with some real relevant and based on what people are searching for today, we can write these manually or add some talking points or just take what HubSpot AI has given us for these different paragraph headers. Also going back up to the top, include an AI generated image with this post. I have that check marked. It comes out with a blog post description and a preview as well. And then you can add additional paragraph headers if you'd like. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and say everything's looking good here. I'll just click generate blog post. And then as that's loading, in the previous screen that we were on, we could have made it more casual, more concise. HubSpot just adapts instantly to your recommendations that you put within those different paragraph callouts. So once this is finished loading, it's a full-blown blog post with a title, AI generated image, and content within each of those paragraph headers that we approved, complete with a CTA. So in under about 3 minutes, we went from a broad idea of inbound marketing to fully structured AI assisted blog posts, complete with visuals and a CTA.
Wow, yeah, I love how quickly this helps marketers or content creators get unstuck. I think marketers a lot of times they're coming up with ideas on what they're going to create next, and sometimes they're just looking at a blank page with the cursor just blinking at them, like, what am I going to create today? And so I think a lot of this helps from a brainstorming perspective. It helps you think through once you do have a great idea. What does the outline need to be of this thing? What are the popular topics related to that? And then it goes in and creates that content for you. And I think that this does not replace the human by any means, because like those paragraphs aren't perfect. Like they're going to incorporate your brand voice if you're using that in HubSpot, but you're likely going to want to like incorporate other mentions of things or other ideas that have not been incorporated in there. So, I would just be curious from your perspective, you work with clients every day. Where do you see teams getting the most benefit from Content Assistant? Do you see it more on the strategy side? Or do you see it more in the execution side of things?
So I do think it's both, but the biggest immediate lift usually comes during execution. So when teams are just bogged down, trying to get things done, trying to write things from scratch or get approvals and format content for multiple channels, the content assistant can really help you move faster without sacrificing the quality aspect of it. You can go from an idea to first draft or blog to campaign in like minutes instead of possibly hours or days. In this example I just showed, I immediately went through all of the paragraph headers and said, good, good, good. But in a real life scenario, you would take that more with a fine tooth comb and add on and give it a little bit of your flair, although AI does sort of pick up on brand voice. But that said, more teams are starting to use it strategically too, testing some new angles, generating topic clusters, even using AI to uncover gaps in content or content audits. So it starts by helping you execute, but over time, it can also shape strategy too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And Alexa, you mentioned brand voice, and that's something that we demoed in the Marketing Hub version of this Fast Forward series. So for anybody that's out there listening, wants to understand how does brand voice, how does that fit in within here. Take a watch on that episode. You'll get a little bit more insight on how you kind of configure all of that. So let's jump to our next feature, which is content collaboration workflows. This we're going to show some examples of how organizations can do more governance inside of HubSpot. Alexa just showed us how to create that blog post. Well, how do you get it approved by your boss or by your editorial team and things like that? So Alexa, why don't you take us through some of what those features look like?
Sure thing. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Basically, building on what Paul was saying, like content bottlenecks don't just happen in the planning stage, they happen when the work's ready and there's no one, or we don't know who's supposed to review it or what happens next. So now HubSpot lets you set up just structured approval flows so nothing goes live without the right checks in place and you don't have to chase feedback manually. I'm in blog posts right now, but it works for website pages, landing pages, and marketing emails as well. So we'll just show you how a simple blog approval works here. We'll go ahead to the bottom right-hand side with this little check mark and you'll click approvals. And so we're going to go ahead and request approval. And then here the screen pops up and you'll select approvers. You can also choose require approval from either all approvers or just one approver. For today's purposes, I'll choose just one approver. We'll go ahead and click who we want to approve this blog post. Please take a look and let me know what you think. Can add that here. For request approval, you can also add notes about like, hey, I tweaked the conclusion of this post from what we originally had outlined. Like, let me know what you think. Basically, any details that you think the reviewer would want to know ahead of time. And again, you can choose all approvers and have multiple people or just one approver. And if one person from that list takes a look and gives it the A-OK, then it's okay to publish. So I'm going to go ahead and click request approval here. So if I was Aubrey, I would get a notification that I have something to approve in the right-hand side. I'll go ahead and approve it. But from my view as the person needing approval, this is what I'll see, that it's pending approval. I have the option to recall approval if I want to. So I change something else and I'm like, oh, shoot, I need to do that before I get the full thing approved again. I could go ahead and click recall, add a message to the person who was waiting on the approval about what's going on, and then click recall approval. And then the approval would go away. And then I'm ready for a new approver. And then the approvers will be listed here. I can reassign if I need to. And then you also have activity tracking on the approvals in place if it's went through a couple round of reviews. And the reviewer or the approver has the option to really choose if they want to approve it right away or if they have some notes and want to give it back to you before it does go live. So that's basically it. With a few clicks, you set up an approval that keeps the content flowing and your team in sync.
I love this functionality and thinking about all of the different content teams I've been on over time where, you write a piece and then you have to maybe go into your project management system or send them an email and say, hey, boss, can you take a look at this when you have a chance? And so much stuff gets lost and so many delays happen and the feedback gets stuck somewhere else. So there's no paper trail or anything like that. I think that this type of functionality is so important for those teams that are really scaling up and getting serious about content creation. Alexa, do you have any tips in terms of setting up collaboration workflows or approval workflows for teams? Do you have any best practices that you would share when thinking about using these tools?
Yeah, I'd basically say don't get bogged down. The best collaboration workflow should feel like support instead of a slowdown or a hiccup. So a couple tips I'd recommend would be just keep that first version simple. Start maybe with one reviewer like I did or one approval step, and then also be clear on roles and expectations. Use internal task assignments or email alerts so reviewers know exactly when they're needed and what they're reviewing. Just be really clear in that comments section. So someone's not just randomly getting a task to approve a blog and they're like, what am I supposed to be doing with this?
I like it. Well, let's go to our last one for today, which is AI campaign starter. I think folks watching this today are really excited about what new tools that they're seeing HubSpot spin up from a content creation perspective.
Exactly. The campaign starter tool in HubSpot can just auto build a basic campaign framework based on your goals that you input. It suggests channels, assets, timelines to launch faster, and more. So I'll go ahead and get started. So we're in the campaign tool. We're click create a campaign. So there's a couple options here for today. We'll choose start with AI, and then we'll go ahead and click next. You have an option to upload a document with more campaign information, or we can describe our campaign in a few words, minimum of 40 characters long. So for today, we'll choose the example of we're running a July lead gen campaign to drive demo signups for our enterprise analytics suite among IT decision makers at mid to large US companies. The campaign will include lead gen ads and a targeted email campaign with a $25,000 budget. Our goal is to capture 500 qualified leads to support the Q4 sales pipeline. So we'll go ahead and click create here. While that's just auto generating, it'll suggest a couple content things like Google ads and a LinkedIn post, like we mentioned in our little brief here. Again, all of these content pieces will be sort of tied to the brand voice, like we talked about earlier with just that campaign remix tool. So here you'll see that it populated asset recommendations with a Google ad and a marketing email. You can click generate here and it'll add even more. What I think the best part of this is all these assets are tagged and tracked under this campaign. So reporting is clean and centralized. And then we can go ahead to all these other tabs here of performance. Right now, nothing will be loading, but we'll have goals, revenue attribution, influence, contacts, website traffic, just a couple of preloaded reports, as well as attribution, asset type by contacts created, etc. Asset tool, like we just talked about, was generated with AI. You could go ahead, like I said, this is already tagged with your campaign, so it makes everything super clean inside HubSpot. And we can go ahead and tweak these individual posts, regenerate more if we don't like what we see, then generate tasks. Budget's already populated with what I put in that initial briefing. And then, of course, activity about when campaign was created and so forth. So I think that's what makes HubSpot Content Hub different. You're not just creating this content, you're creating it like in context with tied to your goals and little brief from day one. So whether this is a product launch, a webinar, seasonal push, Content Hub gives you fast, smart starting point and the flexibility to really make it your own.
I feel like you put in that prompt at the beginning, it really starts to spin out the structure for how you need to be thinking about the campaign. Do you have any tips, in that in the campaign starter for folks that are just starting to when they start using Campaign Starter? Do you have any tips in terms of the prompt or the inputs? So that way, like when the campaign is starting to get spun up, it's best leveraging your suggestions. Do you have any tips for people on that?
Yeah, I have a couple. I think make sure the message matches your audience. The AI gets you a lot of the way there, but make sure you tailor tone and language to your buyer persona, especially for things like emails and landing pages. I would also double check timing and sequencing. So suggestions are smart, but your actual webinar launch date might need some fine tuning around when invites go out, reminders hit, follow-ups are sent. I think I've mentioned this a couple times during our time together today, but don't forget your brand voice and visuals. Swap in your style guide, logo, preferred design elements. The content's all editable every time AI generates something, so just make it your own and give it that human touch. And then I would say, again, use these suggestions as a baseline, not a blueprint. If it asset that it spits out doesn't really fit your style or campaign needs, use your best judgment and feel free to remove it or tweak it as needed.
Yeah, I think those are really good suggestions. And then that opening part where you're putting in your prompt, like you can also upload something in there. And I think that's
Right.
where if you've got a campaign brief that has information about your audience and the goal of the campaign and the key players, and you can put so much information into campaign briefs, like just by putting that in there, I think is really helping set up that AI for success when it starts to spin up assets and all the other parts that are come with the campaign. Well, thanks for taking us through that. Next, we're going to go through just how to get started on here. So if you think about all the tools that Alexa demoed today, if you have Content Hub Pro or Enterprise, These are the tools that you're going to be needing to leverage some of the functionality that we showed today. So you're going to want to make sure that you have some of those, and we're happy to demo these tools if these are not things that you have access today, get you a free demo of them, get you a trial of them. And these will get you access to tools like Content Remix and Content Assistant and the AI Campaign Starter and everything like that. Additionally, you're going to want to check out the Product Updates tab. On the Product Updates tab that's inside your portal, that's going to show you like what new features are rolling out. These tools are updating, I would say, almost weekly at this point, especially with how fast AI is moving. There's just a lot of tooling that continues to get updated. So you're going to want to check that functionality. Check if you have the right licenses available, and then just start seeing if you have some access to some of these new tools. There's also an AI functionality or AI features toggle that you're going to want to make sure that's turned on. So make sure once you have all that set up, then you're going to start being able to access some of these tools. So I think that's it in terms of how to get started for today. I think we can wrap up with a few key takeaways. So yeah, if anybody is interested in taking a demo of this or getting a trial of Content Hub, you talk to your account strategist, your project strategist, or you can also just contact us at smartbugmedia.com/contact us, and we're happy to set that up for you. So in wrap up for today, Content Hub's really designed to take that friction out of the content creation process, help you move more quickly, help you collaborate better, help you launch campaigns in days instead of weeks or months. When we look at when we think about AI, and how it helps teams, it's not about replacing humans at all. It's about giving your humans, the tools they need to be able to move more quickly, to be more creative, to be more efficient. It's about allowing your marketers to do more, and it's allowing your marketing team to not get bogged down in so many manual tasks, allowing them to launch more campaigns more quickly, even a heightened level of creativity. If today's conversation got you thinking about how you can upgrade some of your content engine, we'd love to help. Feel free to reach out to us. Happy to give you a trial. Happy to schedule a complimentary tech stack audit as well, to just show you, if you're using another CMS today, like WordPress or another tooling, we're happy to give you access to this so you can kind of see how that works. And last part is just looking at our video series ahead. So this is the last one in terms of the hubs that we're going to go through. Next, we're going to look at Breeze AI and do a deep dive into that. So with that, I hope you'll join us for that. Alexa, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a great session and wonderful demos to see all some of the new tools that have come out this year. And thanks everybody for joining us today.